Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started with our presentation. At the heart of our time here today, I want to discuss and demonstrate to you the use of ArcGIS Online in school board administration. We're going to start with a quick primer on ArcGIS Online and lead into the specific use cases for mapping, enriching, and analyzing student achievement. And this is also done using a product called Esri Maps for Office, which is an add-in to your Microsoft Office system, Excel and PowerPoint. Start with a really brief introduction here. I work with the education group at Esri Canada. We are tasked with supporting the use of Esri software and GIS not only in school board administration, but also in higher education and K-12 in teaching and learning and research. I would anticipate you'd find teachers in your school board using ArcGIS Online in the classroom. I also urge school board administrators who have an understanding of GIS to reach out to these curriculum side of the board to see how they can support teachers and how you can help support them. They're always keen for those support, especially access to local community data that you might have. So what is ArcGIS Online? It can be defined in many ways, but as well as acting as a great teaching tool in education, it is used by GIS professionals around the world in a number of different market segments. ArcGIS Online is a collaborative web GIS that allows you to use, to create, to share maps and 3D scenes and web apps and different feature layers, and to perform analytics on the data to reveal relationships, patterns, and trends. ArcGIS Online is in a secure cloud where you can add items and publish your own web layers. It's available to license by itself, but I wanted also to note that if you do have a desktop license to ArcGIS Desktop, ArcGIS Online is included in that current license. And if you need any help figuring out your access to ArcGIS Online, please feel free to contact me. So supporting ArcGIS Online are a world of apps that help to integrate GIS into your business systems and to make mapping easy and more accessible. Esri apps fall into a few different categories, and we have apps for the field, which enable field work to be more easily accomplished, like the Collector app. We have apps for the community, which allow you to share your data with the public, for example, story maps and open data. But today we're going to be focusing on maps for office productivity. And apps for the office are a set of apps that are not only easy to use, but easy to use throughout the organization. So traditionally, GIS in school boards live within one, maybe two departments, and sometimes only just one person. The rest of the organization might not know about them or even have access to them or the data and maps that they create. So mapping was essentially out of reach, but everyone has Excel. And by combining that with this web mapping platform, you can enable everyone throughout the board to make maps, gain access to school board data and layers that are already available, so that they can look at the data in their spreadsheets with a geographic context. So what actually does ArcGIS Maps for Office do? This is what I'm going to demonstrate to you today. I'll show you how to quickly add data from an Excel spreadsheet to visualize the aspect of where, that is more or less hidden in the rows and columns of a spreadsheet, and how to employ symbology to get a better understanding of that data. I'll also demonstrate how you can enrich that spreadsheet with additional variables that surround the location of that data. This will add more context to your data, and you can then analyze in the methodology and the processes that you already work with. Lastly, I'll show a few fast yet compelling ways to collaborate and communicate what you found in that data, and share that within your internal departments, within the staff, but also externally to the community. And today I'm going to demonstrate this in the context of mapping student achievement. So let's get started. I'm first going to go to ArcGIS Online, where I've already signed into my account, And this is my home page of my private and secure instance of ArcGIS Online. And like I noted earlier, ArcGIS Online is a portal, and you can manage and share your content, whether that be internally or to the community. You can decide for everything that you create and save in ArcGIS Online how it's shared. I want to show you a data set that I've created for school catchment areas, and we'll be using this as a basis to locate our information in our Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to search for this just by going to the map. I can add data. Now I can search for layers that are not only just within my organization and available to me through ArcGIS Online, but also there's a world of information and content that's available and curated in ArcGIS Online from a number of different users across the country. And I suggest taking the time to explore what's available and what's out there. So right now I'm just going to search for layers. It defaults to search within my organization, and you can see the 3 layers that are already available in my searching dialog. I'm going to be working within the study area of the Okanagan school boundaries. So this is the data I want to look at. I'll add this data to the map. And you can see here is simply boundaries, and if I click on the location of the boundary, it'll bring up a pop-up with information that I know is now in the attributes of that data. So we have these are elementary school boundaries, the name of the school, and this school ID. So this is interesting to note. So this school ID can be used as a locator. I'm going to show you now how we are going to use this data to map our spreadsheets and do some easy mapping. So here I have a spreadsheet, and it has school name, elementary schools, school type, some school information, but I also have here some mocked up data for literacy scores. And these are from 2000, I've defined these as 2000 literacy score and a 2015. You'll also note in here that there really isn't anything to define this as a location. Other than the school name, there's also the school ID. We have municipality, but that wouldn't be enough. We're looking for an address or an XY coordinate, a latitude or a longitude. But with this school ID, I can locate these boundaries using the boundaries that are in ArcGIS Online. Up here in my Excel spreadsheet, you can see these new ribbon has been added for ArcGIS Maps. I've already signed in to my account that I just showed you. And now I'm going to add a map. So this map will ask me exactly what I want to bring into this. And it will do that by recommending mapping options for me. And they do this because they want to make GIS more accessible to people that aren't GIS professionals. So there's a lot of suggestions that are already defaulted. It's looking for the data table I already have open. It's looking for an address. In this case, there is no address other than municipality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at other locations I can use to locate these schools on a map. It's worth noting here that if you have census division data, DAs, CDs, CSDs, this information is already in ArcGIS Online, so you can use this boundary to then map information. So we're going to look at locations that I have in my organization within my content. And here is that elementary school boundary file again. I'll select this, and it'll ask me what field is the location type. And then I'll link that with that field in my spreadsheet data. Now it also asks me how I want to symbolize, how I want to style my data in my map. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you schools with literacy scores from 2012 and 2015. So the first one I'm going to do is on 2012. I'll click OK. I want to show it based on the boundary with the different color scheme, and I'll add that data. So here's my boundaries that we saw in ArcGIS Online, and now it's been color-coded to show that variable for 2012 literacy scores. I also want to, I'm just going to scroll down here and show you that it's giving me a classification system that's suggesting how I should show this data. So I'll click OK here. Now I want to compare this data with my 2016 data. I can copy this data, and now I can change the way that this data is stored to show 2015 literacy scores. I'll add that data in the same way and click OK. I'll expand this map so we can really look at what we're doing here. And if I turn this layer on and off, I can see 2016 and 2012 data. I can change transparency to make sure that in this case I don't need it, so I can show the difference between the two. Although it looks like we can interpret what these maps are showing us, I want to ensure that these color ramps are comparable, not just within my school board, but relative to the Canadian average for literacy for this grade range. So let me show you how you can do this by working with the classification codes in this color ramp. And this is done by layering. As a default, it's chosen to show the range of values from high to low within each layer, within each data, so 2012 and 2015. I'm going to change this to say I just want to show values above and below a certain average. And that average, like I said, will be relative to the Canadian literacy rate. I also want to ensure that it's relative to itself. So when I looked at my 2012 and 2015 data, I noted that the high point was 341. And the low for both was 264. I'll click OK on this 2015 data, and then I'll go back and do the same thing for 2012. Above and below, 341, the Canadian average of 273, and the base of 264. Click OK. And so now what I'm seeing here is the 2015 and 2012 literacy scores that are relative to each other, but also relative to the Canadian average. So anything here that is in the purple is above the Canadian average, and everything here that is in the red would be below. And those are areas that we want to try and pinpoint areas for concern. So now that we've done some smart mapping, I want to move into the second part to really look at those specific areas by enriching the data we've mapped. And we can do this in two ways. We can zoom into our data and look at it in a more temporary way, and click on the information, and you'll see here that I can look at infographics that are a temporary snapshot of the area that I've selected here. It tells me the value in this case of average household size in this area, within the Central Okanagan district, within Canada, and then within British Columbia. I can also look at variables for the age pyramid and by household income. So this is a temporary investigation on a certain area that you want to do right inside your map. But if you want to keep this information to share, report, or even to download these statistics to do your own analysis, we can do that by adding information to our Excel map. So you can see it here in our map. I want to get data that might have an impact on these literacy scores. For all of you, I'm sure you've already identified what these are for your respective school boards. And I'm going to pick median income and adult education that have attained a high school or equivalent. And I'm going to use these two examples of variables that might have an impact on the literacy and learning opportunities within my schools. So I like this button here in my ArcGIS Maps gallery, Arrange Maps. So now I can see both my Excel data and my map in one screen. I'm going to enrich this data, clicking Enrich. It'll automatically point me to the Canada variables that are available to add to my data set. I'll look at income. There's some popular variables here. You can search for the variables. I want to see all of them and explore everything that's at my disposal. I definitely want 2015 household income. And a median household income, I feel, would be appropriate for my research that I'll be doing. You in your school board might have a different methodology or reasoning and might pick one of these other variables. You'll also note that there's projected values as well. And I'm going to choose 2020 to see how this data might change over the next 5 years. And like I said, I'm also going to look at education. I'll do the same thing here for 2015, adult education to high school, and in 2020. I'll click Next. So this is summarizing for me the variables I've selected, and it's also telling me how this data is going to be shown. And you can see here that the data will be aggregated and summed based on the input polygons. Now, if I had point files here, I would have the option to determine the distance away from that point that I would want these variables summarized for, whether that be a ring, a drive time, or a drive distance, 1 kilometer, 10 kilometers, 20, and so on. I'll add these to my map and just watch my Excel spreadsheet here as it goes from having this internal information to including these external education context information for adult education and median household income, both in 2015 and projected to 2020. And these numbers are summarized based on the boundaries of what's in our map. So this is now in our Excel spreadsheet, and if we click on our data here and look at our pop-up, it's also in our data in our map. The third and last part of our demonstration today will be to take these maps that we've created and use them to help communicate and convey this message. And we can do these in a few ways. But before we do that, actually I'm looking at my data and I'm realizing that I might want to clean up a little bit about how this data is being presented, especially if it's going to be externally exposed. And here's where I can alter some of the pop-up information to show information I do need and information I don't need. This layer, which is the 2016, I'm going to show the 2016 literacy rates and then all of my additional variables that I added. And we'll do the same here for this one. School name. We'll check these out, make sure they're correct. So we have 2012 and 2015 with our additional variables. Okay, so now I've cleaned this map up a bit, and now I'll share this map. I can enter a title for this. Tags are what we use to help us search within ArcGIS Online. And I'm just going to share this right now just within my organization. Okay, so this is telling me that it's sharing each of these layers and it's also sharing the map. While it's doing that, I can embed this map into my PowerPoint document. So let's show you how to do that. I'm going to use the ArcGIS Map gallery to add my map. And it's going to send me on a journey to tell me exactly what I need to do to incorporate this map. Here it's finding the map that I just shared, so it's been shared now. If I needed to search, I can search here. I can search within these folders as well. of data that is in my organization. And I'll choose next. I definitely want all of the information being shown. And I can choose the layout that I want this map to be incorporated into my slide. I'm going to play around with this to make sure it's taking up as much real estate on my slide as possible and choose to insert it. So now if I go to my slide view, and if I click on this button, my mouse will be interacting with my map as opposed to my PowerPoint. So now I can scan, zoom, and click on the information that was available within my ArcGIS map now within PowerPoint. And you can use this as your talking point while presenting. And now go back to my map that I've shared. And you can see down here in the bottom right corner, it indicates that the map has been shared. I can click here to go see it. I can also just toggle to my subscription and find this map in my content space. Let's open this map and just make sure everything's behaving as it should. All right, here's our map. We have both of our layers. A few more things I might want to do. I can change my base map again, use imagery. Now I can share this map save it and share it into a web application that helps me with that user-friendly application of a swipe, because I want to compare these two maps. So this is a story map template that's already configured for you. And if I select that, I'll go through the process of creating this. And here again, it'll trigger me to make some decisions about the map I want to incorporate into this app. I'm going to use the vertical bar to swipe. I want to swipe the 2015 literacy scores above the 2012, and some layout settings that I can turn on and off as I require. So now we can see my two layers in a swipe with 2012 and 2015. All in all, it's looking pretty good. I've realized now that I need to add the locations of the schools to this map. And I want them to be added to this app, to the map in ArcGIS Online, and to the PowerPoint slide. If I go back to my spreadsheet, I have a second tab here that does contain the schools with address information. I'm going to go to my map and add this information to my map from Excel again. Except this time, I'm going to use the address information. I'm going to only style it just by points on a map. Here you can see this data has now been located and incorporated into my map. I can do a quick change in the look and feel of this. Okay, and let's also look at that pop-up, make sure it looks good. Test it out. So this is the school, the 2012 and 2015 literacy score, and my additional variables. I update this map and click share, and now it's going to be updating each individual layer, updating this additional layer, and sharing this information out to everywhere that I shared this map to. So if we go to my PowerPoint again and we reload, now we see that this map has been updated in PowerPoint. And if we reload our app, it's been updated in our ArcGIS Online map and the app. So that concludes the demonstration of ArcGIS and Esri Maps for Office. I've made mapping possible, not only for GIS professionals in ArcGIS Online, but in Excel and in PowerPoint. And we've enabled a geographic view of that information and able to view it in a different way by adding additional location context, demographic, lifestyle, estimate and projection data that is available through a partnership with Environics Analytics and Esri. And then I integrated that into PowerPoint and story maps to share and communicate and tell my story. So I think we'll wrap it up today. Again, thank you everyone for being here, and I hope to talk to you again very shortly.